morning, everyone. Welcome back to Faith Family Focus. I am your co-host, Faith Suggs, former Duke Women's Basketball graduate, current marketing manager for SIG Sports, as well as founder and CEO of Brand by Faith. This wonderful man next to me is my father, Schaefer Suggs, former NFL player with the New York Jets and the Cincinnati Bengals. Also serves on the executive board for the RPFPC, the charitable arm of the NFLPA Chicago chapter. Good morning, Dad. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Today is officially the second day of fall or third day of fall. Saturday was the first day. So good.
Well, thank you.
It's my favorite season.
It is. You have your
not too cold, not too hot. It's prettier than. That's not fair. All seasons are beautiful. I don't think summer's that beautiful. But fall, they say that fall is proof that change can be beautiful. That's what they say. Mm-hmm. The leaves change, and they're always changing for the better. So it's that time of year.
Yeah.
Have I what?
Mums.
No, and I might just get fake ones. Mums are hard. I learned the trick, though. They said if you submerge your mums in a bucket of water to a point where like they're overflowing the bucket, your mums will last the full season. That's the trick.
Well, I think we have some. So we have. Well, Faith, what is talk about today? But it suffered from really difficult speaking. Between now I'm not Notre Dame fans. There's no possibility to the loss.
I'm not. You said I'm not a Notre Dame fan, right?
No, me.
Oh, okay, yeah, that was
really
very clear about that.
Loss. To JEG. But I want to know a little bit about WNBA.
WNBA playoffs, we definitely can talk about that. I just have a quick question for you because WNBA playoffs, there's a little bit we can talk about the predictions. Obviously, game 1 of the round 2 was yesterday. And then we're going to talk about MVP race gets announced tomorrow.
Okay.
Between Breanna Stewart, Alyssa Thomas, and Asia Wilson. And then they already, of course, announced Defensive Player of the Year and Sixth Player of the Year, which might impact who we think is our MVP. We'll talk about that. And then, of course, the progression of NIL, where we are in year 3, and what's real and what's not. I think it's a good conversation around NIL, especially now that I think Colorado football is leading the way. Every week we hear something about an NIL opportunity off of a game day on Saturday. So lots to talk about with NIL. But the first thing I want to ask you, and this is something that I didn't know could happen, and I didn't know if it was allowed to happen because of margin of victory, but can you explain to me why a team was allowed to score 70 points with that large of margin of victory?
Somebody
any canceling the game, calling it, somebody needs to get fired. There's something off here.
Well, I think there's a coach in the NFL that has ruffled feathers. And this was an opportunity to kind of rub his favor. So scoring 70 points in the national football game is unheard of.
What is 70 to 20?
You scored 70 points.
That's cool, right? Like, okay, some of you had 5 touchdowns. That's unreal, right? But
wait, 5 touchdowns, 5 passing touchdowns, 5 rushing. Wow.
And then you could only put 20 points on the board.
Yeah. Well,
with a former Super Bowl quarterback.
Yeah, there's some right now. You know the league, Jets, the Broncos, serious problem in terms of how they navigate with their season into week. There's some
yeah, I think You know what we're on week 3 or 4.
Week 3.
Hold on 1 second. There's a sound.
That was. But that the first question is I just can't even imagine. I've had points scored on the game, but 70?
It's not that. It's the okay, here's the thing. I expect a professional football team with the league in the world, right? We go back to that conversation we had last week. The NFL, which is where apparently we're supposed to be the best at football. So the best and the brightest play in the NFL. I'm not surprised that the best and the brightest score 70 points. What I'm confused about is that you only scored 20 points, creating a margin of victory 70-20. Should be think about that. That's just depressing.
Well, playing the game. I game like that. It is really long day.
It's a long day, and it's a very slow clock. That clock wasn't ticking for them at all. Probably because they scored every 5 minutes.
But those with Colorado.
Yeah, so I think, and that's a little bit of what. So I think that's a good transition, really quick though, because it is going to take us to NIL. I wanted to know your thoughts on Deion Sanders' conversation with the press following their loss to Oregon this weekend. We've heard this isn't the first time we've heard this type of situation come about.
Can you share?
Well, hold on. What I'm saying is, for example, Colorado is now considered, in my opinion, a blue blood, right? On the football side, right? So the way Duke gets treated, the way UNC gets treated, the way that Kansas gets treated, the way that, you know what I mean? Like blue bloods, every single week, someone wants to take them down. Why? Because they got the hoopla on social media. They got the great coach. They got the money. They got the fans. They have the gear. Right? Everything people want to take down. That's going to happen. We've had this conversation. Deion Sanders got on with the press. He said, they asked him like, hey, what are your thoughts on the Oregon coach? He made some comments. Last week, Colorado State coach made some comments. Last year, Nick Saban made some comments. Right? Everyone's making comments about Deion Sanders and Deion Sanders' organization, his program. Right? All this hoopla, this jumping. But look, we beat them. Right? We're going to come out. We're going to beat them. We're going to shut them up. We're going to do this. Right? Everyone is so geared up to beat them. They asked Deion Sanders, what do you think about that? And he said, look, it is what it is, right? It's going to continuously happen. People are going to want to beat prime time, right? I think we all can acknowledge that. But I wanted to know your thoughts on it, because for me, I didn't think it was any like big hoorah, we need to have a conversation, like what's going on, like why are they attacking only Colorado? In my opinion, if you're doing something right, you're going to have a target on your back. That's what I took away from it. And I think that Colorado football gets that. But of course, there's a little bit more behind the angst towards Deion Sanders in Colorado. So I just wanted to get your perspective on it as well, because, they got their butts beat by a good Oregon team, right? This is their first test. Does that reveal anything to you for the rest of the season? And what's your thoughts on just the overall target on the Deion Sanders situation?
Well, it's on. For Deion, terrible. Wherever you go, he's made a transition. He's transformed a program that was only won one game last year to a program that has international attention, financially and also commercially. And it's and he did it in a non-traditional way. He did it his way. So a lot of people are going to have a difficult time with that. Deion's always been Showtime. I chance to watch the winning time with the Lakers, and I was sharing that this was where it started. Deion has taken that and really leveraged it in a genius way. To a level that's remarkable. And you're going to always have people that are going to, you're going to always have your haters, right? And that's without saying. I mean, he was that way at Jackson State. He had other teams in the SWAC that felt the same way, right? So you're gonna have to.
Alabama was offended. Remember, like Nick Saban's
that I think. Yeah, the one thing that I think I'm frustrated with is the perspective that if it had been any other coach that's doing exactly what Deion is doing, would you have so much controversy in terms of his success? And I think, to validate the fact that he is a top-notch NCAA coach, he said to himself, I'm not going to tell anybody that I'm not the best coach. And then he immediately pivoted and gave praise to Coach Saban, right? Deion is a solid football coach. I love his demeanor. I love his composure. What you're going to see going forward is he's going to make some adjustments, even though, not Oregon, but Colorado revealed a lot of his already known weaknesses. His line is not at the level that is going to allow him to compete for a national championship. He has some depth issues that he will probably take care of next year. But you're going to see some adjustments made. You're going to get their receiver back. That's going to be really helpful. And you're going to see something really special. I mean, his schedule is really tough. I'm going to say he's going to go, 75% of his wins he's going to win this year. He's got some tough USC. He has some tough games coming up. But you're going to see some really remarkable coaching. His demeanor, he wasn't frazzled. He just come to realization that, okay, we are revealed. I mean, our weaknesses, we have players that are not where they need to be. When you start to go, Oregon is tough. They're solid. And, I just feel that I have a lot of hope that people realize what he's doing very good for college.
I just wanted to, I wrote a bunch of notes on what you said because there's a lot of things that you hit on perfectly. One, Deion Sanders is not the best coach in college football. He's on year, 3 or 4 as a collegiate football coach, which if anybody knows, you can coach your whole life, right? But the moment you enter the collegiate space, you have a different experience than ever before. And you have to relearn a system, right? The style of play, the resources, the scheduling. There's just a different, right? Like he had to do it at Jackson State. He had to learn to navigate having lack of resources. Now he's stepping into a situation where he's taking a team that was already kind of created before he got there, and he added his pieces. He got rid of the pieces he didn't like. Like this is a normal process for the hiring of a new coach, right? In year 1, he's already won how many games? 2? 3?
3 and 1.
It was TCU. Yeah, 3-1, right? Oregon was the first test. Oregon is a legendary football school, right? They handle what they need to do. They always compete over there on the West Coast in the Pac-12. It is a understandable and respectable program, right? I didn't like how Oregon was acting like they, in my opinion, weren't one of those programs going to Colorado, playing Colorado in Oregon. I didn't like that. That's the only thing I was like, you got to amp these kids up the way you do. They should be acting like, yeah, you guys got all that pomp and circumstance, but we're one of those, right? That never happened. Like, here's the thing. The only time we walked into a gym or an arena and did not feel like we're supposed to win this game because we're one of those, right? Whether if we were good that season or bad that season. That is a mentality that comes with being at one of those institutions, right? With the fan base and the resources and the money and the money and the money and the money and the championships and the winning. And then you add on the fact that Oregon
tradition.
In the culture. We talked about this last week, culture, right? Something that Deion Sanders is trying to establish, which is why I think he's a great culture coach. And that's what you have to be in football. I told you that. Like, you don't really need to be the greatest X's and O's and all this stuff. You need to understand the game from a player's point of view, and you need to understand culture. I think he does a great job with that. I didn't like how Oregon was acting like Colorado was Pat Summitt's Tennessee Lady Vols in 1997. I didn't like how they were acting like they were Mike Krzyzewski 2010 Indianapolis Duke Blue Devils. I didn't like how they weren't acting like this. They were acting like Colorado. Like, it was just so weird to me. I was like, why did you have to amp your athletes up that much to play Deion Sanders, right? Yes, they should want to smash Deion Sanders and the Colorado football team, right? The Buffs. But in my opinion, they were acting like Colorado was one of those. And that only speaks so highly towards the culture that Deion Sanders has established within, it's September. He probably got there, started camp, everything July. That's unbelievable in my opinion, right? And so for them to walk away from that experience, not being completely annihilated, because now we have to describe annihilation as 70-20, but I think that it was, I think in my opinion, I was not mad about the situation. I was not disappointed about the situation. I didn't think it was the end of the world. I didn't think, right, you know what I mean? It's only game 5, like the season just started. This isn't even, you know what I mean? Like, I thought it was okay. And I think that he hit it on the head. I think that he's going to be learning through this process as well. I think we've talked about that, like his inexperience at the coaching at the collegiate level. And then if he decides to go coach at the professional level, his inexperience will have to build up again. He's going to have to learn to coach at that level, right? And I think that that's the only thing is just, I just didn't like how Oregon was acting like Colorado was coming in as Alabama. You know what I mean? I didn't like that. And I think that it has everything to do, because this is the first time we've ever seen a blue blood, a big boy, someone who's being promoted as the face of college football, be coached by an African-American head coach.
Correct.
Because in some sort of way, it's different, it's unique, it's threatening, right? And they just do it different. The way that they establish themselves as the face of football is unapologetically themselves, and it aligns with the culture that he has built, right? It's modern, it's hip, it's young, it's motivating, it's competitive, right? But the biggest thing is it's unapologetic. People don't like that, right? And so, yeah, it's going to regularly happen. People are going to be super geared up. They're going to drink their secret stuff and go try to annihilate the Colorado Buffs, right? But in my opinion, the bar for me with Colorado this season is not high, right? I just want to experience it. And that's what he brings to these games, is a fun experience. And when they win, it's a bonus.
No, I like exactly what that. And you look at an coach that is doing it his way. He's flamboyant. He's great. He's honest. And again, it gets to exactly what you're saying is you still have a part of the college football culture that will never be comfortable with where he is and the power that he has. And you're going to get that. And that's why they are amped up. That's why they are amped up.
Yeah. I just was blown
It's
away.
like people say, well, he what he doesn't need to be humbled. It was almost in that movie, Remember the Titans. Shut him up fast. Shut him up. People want to silence him. They want to silence what he represents, and that's unfortunate. And he is doing so much for college football. I met a parent this weekend at Yale said, "Well, I don't like what he's done with this whole free agency thing." What are you talking about? He's doing something that these big programs have been doing illegally for the last 50 years. He has opened up the opportunity for players to make additional money and create revenue under the NIL brand. But he's taken the TV revenue, Faith. I mean, you have a young man. I said a young man. He's younger than I am. We have someone that's going into Colorado, and he has transformed the culture and the mentality of people in Colorado. That I didn't think it would actually happen, but he's got the president. He's got the president of the university. He's got the athletic director. He has old people doing their theme song, right? He is just remarkable. And I just kudos to him. And I just understand.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. But this is what I was saying. Anybody that's ever, and I've done this, has come in as a coaching staff to a university to establish a new program. The coach prior to them was fired. You have to completely come in and the expectation is to win, because every time you make a new hire, it's the grand savior, right? And then sometimes, right, you get lucky. Sometimes that first year, let's look at Kansas State this last year with basketball. Let's look at the end of the day, Colorado football, right? There's a lot of moments where you get to ride that high coming in, right? Culture, everybody's locked in. You bring your kids leave that maybe want to go somewhere else because the transfer portal exists and you can leave wherever you want to leave. And it's going to be really hard for him because pretty soon they're going to plateau. That happens. You know what I mean? They're going to plateau. The goal is for them to continuously grow though every single game. Their goal probably this season isn't to win this many games, even though they want to win every game. Their goal is to not be as bad as they've been. The standards are very low here. So Colorado's just, like I said, we bring back the entertaining conversation. They entertain football again. And I think that we haven't had that for 2-3 years where football, even though college football has been fun, competitive, right? What we hoped NIL brought to the game was entertainment. And it is, okay? It's entertaining to watch these kids. And it's not surprising that a football parent from Yale would have a conversation or a statement about it, right? Because their kids don't make anything. But it's or play anywhere competitive, right? So why would they have any concept of what free agency actually looks like, right? That's just my thoughts.
The family was Colorado.
Oh yeah, that's enough for all we need to say.
There you go.
Aren't you guys there then? So, and it's just along lines of it has everything to do with what he looks like and how unapologetically they are. And I think but what the funny stuff is through his staff, through those young men, whatever positions on the field, they are so professional and locked in to everything that he has to say. And that's so fun to watch because that's all we ask of a coach is to have the level of respect from his athletes that he gives them. And you see there's a genuine commitment within their program. And that's what I think their goal will be, to just continue to get better. So just our thoughts a little bit on that. I know that video has been circling around. I just want to make sure we touched on it. It's almost like Deion's going to be the conversation every single week, and that's fine. I think he's kind of breaking barriers a little bit. One thing I would say is, as we shift a little bit into NIL, there's 2 different coaches right now in collegiate sports, right? And we've been seeing this difference happen. The coach that's pro NIL and the coach that has to be pro NIL. Because originally 3 years ago, we were talking about coaches pro NIL and coaches not pro NIL.
Right.
NIL is not going anywhere. At least it's not going anywhere in the sense that they're going to eliminate it tomorrow. They'll probably restrict it, but their coaches now have to conform to the NIL world. Deion Sanders elevates the NIL experience with his athletes. Clemson football elevates the NIL experience with the athletes. Texas, extraordinary at their NIL experience in brand building for the athletes. As we look at NIL 3 years in the making, started in 2021, we're coming up, we're in the third-ish year, I guess just to say.
Third year.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on I got you to say, not just the projection of NIL and where it has gone, but the perception of it by the public, by athletes, by the sports world, how we're treating it. What's your thoughts on that? Because of course, people weren't completely on board when it first happened. And now we're September 25th, 2023. NIL is still here and millions of dollars has been secured by athletes. What's your thoughts on just the overall perception of NIL and how it has changed through its progression these last couple of years?
Well, I think obviously perception is evolving and it's fluid. It's changing weekly. We opened this conversation almost 3 years ago, right? Even before they passed legislation in California. And we've seen how it has progressed, and we're at a point right now where, Shadir Sanders is getting almost $3 million in NIL money. I think it's around that figure. You have gymnasts making money. You have a lot of players that are not necessarily superstars making really good passive income. I think like anything else, Faith, it's healthy for the game. It's healthy for kids to be able to monetize those 4 years that they are in it, especially in a university that's making so much money off of revenue off of the football team and TV. And I think we're at a point right now where I don't see, I know you're in that space, but regulating aspects of it in terms of, I think Dion made a point that, he struggles a little bit about players making money before they actually earn it. So you have a little of that privilege that I think probably is the most dangerous aspect of it right now, where players and families are having the expectation that this is all going to be a part of
entitlement.
Entitlement, yes. That's my biggest concern right now. I think it's healthy. My big concern right now is the entitlement and what that's doing for the sports.
I think that you hit it right on the head. I think entitlement is the only issue with the perception. And you and I have spoke about how there's pros to being entitled, right, in this situation, because no one was standing up for us not making any money off of any jersey sales, any games, any social media promotion, any events, last minute, day before a game, booster events, right, that you got rushed to, or after game photo autograph sessions with fans after you lost, right, or won. The entitlement is good because now they know, oh, my value, the value I bring to this sport, to this school is this. I know I'm important. We know we're important. This is the family, mom and dad. Woo-hoo, we're important. My son or daughter or them should make anything they want because we have value, right? The issue I have with the entitlement and the value and the education behind it, all that great stuff that's building, right? That teaching them strong business and entrepreneurship tactics and overall just understanding the business. My biggest issue is that define value. How does value equivalent? How do you know how much it's worth? What's your basis on it, right? And that's the hardest thing, not just with NIL, but just across the board in sports and just overall, in my opinion, even the real world, when you're trying to either get a new job or you're changing jobs or you're negotiating, everything across the board is how do you calculate your value, right? And one of the biggest things I'm seeing is that parents in particular, family coaches, people they lean on, guardians, the people who are in some sort of way advising them through the process in their personal team, their circle, back behind them at home, are not getting the education needed to understand what the main thing is with NIL and what it's providing you. It's providing you now to make money off your name, image, and likeness. Mm-hmm. What is the usage rules? How long can this people? Here's an example, right? Joe Schmo goes plays LSU football. He's great, right? He's a freshman, top freshman coming in, but everybody knows when you come in, you're not going to start right away at LSU football or Alabama football. So he comes in, he's behind the quarterback, he's learning, he's growing, right? But he's still a hot commodity. He's still the Zion Williamson effect in LSU and Baton Rouge. Everyone loves who he is. They want him to come out to autographs, someone do all these things, right? All these amazing things. Here goes back to what Deion Sanders said. He signs all these things. It doesn't play a minute yet, right? Not a problem. In my opinion, he in some sort of way has built up a value that people want to meet. They're excited about. He can make money. It adds the pressure, right? It also changes the perspective on what the athlete is worth, right? So if an athlete is like, I don't know. So yeah, that's just the overall thought process. I think that the entitlement, there's no education behind what the value is equivalent to in terms of numbers. Mm-hmm. And because of that, everybody thinks they're basing what they should make off of what other people are making, because for some reason, we've also allowed media outlets to try to disclose what athletes are making in their personal and private contracts and agreements with schools, right? Like what the collective is paying them, what Aflac is going to pay them. Imagine if Deion Sanders had to disclose everything he made and his sons, everything they make off the KFC commercials, the Aflac commercials, the DirecTV, everything they do, right? Imagine if they had disclosed all this money. Well, knee-jerk reaction is, if I'm the Oregon football coach, I'm like, wait a second. Right? If I'm thinking the way NIL parents think in some sort of way, wait a second. If he's making that, then I, with this little calculator, and I did this, and we did this many viewerships, and I got these many kids off recruits, so somehow we're equivalent. They're actually making this. Right? And just knock off a couple 100,000 because I understand he's prime time. Here's the issue with that is it's not just about what you bring to the table. It's when you bring it and what table. And I think that that's the biggest thing that's missing here is understanding that this has nothing to do with how you perform on the field. That's a bonus. And that's what makes you money. But this overall NIL is an opportunity. And this is the biggest thing we're learning. It's not about what you can make and what you can't make and where it can take you and what schools will sign you to a certain contract as the collective so that you come there, right? All types of stuff. What it really is giving you firsthand experience in how to establish a brand. Mm-hmm. Learn your value, create relationships with people who have power, with boosters. And now it just opens up a door for you to have conversations we weren't allowed to have conversations about before, right? You want to be a fashion designer, you can now start a merchandise brand. You could not do that before. If you want to coach kids, you can start a day camp. You cannot do that before, right? You can start an LLC. You can work with a 501c3. You can do all of these things, right? It's not just about money. And that's the biggest issue I have with the entitlement conversation, because everyone thinks it's about dollars. It's about dollars. It's about dollars. And it's not just about dollars, because dollars means nothing if you've put nothing into your value. Because unless you are Joe Schmo at LSU football and you're behind the quarterback and you find a way to get on that field, the only way for you to be making money is if you continuously are working for it. And that's the thing that people are struggling to understand. And like Peyton Manning, and I guess he also aligned to the Deion Sanders conversations, he said that his son is not going to make any NIL money until he gets on the field. That was the rule, they said. I sure hope they change that, because that's just a shame. Like, I don't think that makes sense, but also the Mannings come from a different situation than the rest of the athletes. Huh?
He's speaking for before he I don't know.
Yeah, he says that. I also think he's acknowledging the fact that you come from a millionaire family, so you really don't need to be taking money out of other people's pockets just because your last name is Manning. I think that's the thing. I'm happy they acknowledge that, because it say Archie Manning's making millions of dollars, but he's not playing a single lick on the field, and the other quarterbacks and the other wide receivers and everyone else is struggling to get basic deals because they keep skipping over them, even though they're playing a legitimate amount of minutes. And they skip over them and go work with Archie because Archie's last name is Manning. I mean, in some sort of way, that's also what we're dealing with. So that's that. But I just think that overall, the biggest issue I have with NIL and just the growth that we've had is not just, okay, the money's great. It's really not that much out there. There's a small percentage of people making those big chunk of change because at the end of the day, there's still a whole different professional market that's more interesting than collegiate athletes, unless they play for Colorado football. Then you're pretty much more interesting. But I think that the biggest thing is just there's not a lot of education behind how value is calculated. And that's affecting how athletes are making decisions, and their families are making decisions, because why would they have any insight on what the actual numbers are? They're just going off of whatever the media platforms are saying. If so-and-so is making this, then my kid should make this. And it's like, that's legitimately not how this works. Right. I'm sorry. So, yeah, that's the biggest thing. On the topic of college football, I know you wanted to touch a little bit on, before we wrap with WNBA, the final 5 minutes, I think you wanted to touch on the Cornell versus Yale game that you got to go to this weekend. Unfortunately, Yale lost, but you were able to kind of, see Devin and see how it all went.
Yeah, there's things that Devin has had the opportunity to get on the field that much. And I have a really dear friend of mine, Ed Marinero, who I played with the New York Jets, and he has been on our show. He also has his son, Eddie Jr., that plays on Cornell. And we have always had a pretty close relationship, but we've actually established a bond over these last 2 years, and talking about, our sons playing and not playing that much. And, there's things that we struggle with. And as a former runner-up to the Heisman Trophy, me, a former second-round draft pick of the New York Jets, our sons are playing, we wanted to kind of put it in perspective is what's really important here. And for parents who are in similar situations, former players, and not putting the pressure on your kid to kind of duplicate or emulate your career, and put more value in just being extremely proud of our kids. And so we've had conversations over the last 2 years. Well, this weekend we had a chance to connect and play. I sent you, I think, an email with some pictures of it. If you got them. We had a chance to connect, and for the first time, they got a chance to play against each other. And Yale lost the game with 2 seconds left, field goal. Cornell played a lot better football game, very solid football game. They beat us by 2 points. I think it's 23-21. But it was really nice. It was a great experience. And the one thing that I really appreciate, Devin was going through the Bulldog walk. And normally Devin, goes straight forward and just don't look at you smile. But he came over and he acknowledged me. And it was one of the most proudest moments I've ever had. That he gave me a little fist bump. That, Dad, no matter what, you're here. You show up. And I say that to parents because my mom was that parent. And I'm going to be there. But just unconditional love for your kids, and the fact that they acknowledge, when you were playing at Duke, just knowing that you could look up and know that I'm there. For me, I'm not going to miss it. But some parents, if it's not going the way that they wanted to go, they're not there to support their kids. And I would tell parents, be there, be present, because it's bigger than the game. It's bigger than the game. As a parent, your relationship with your kids playing Division I football or basketball. And it was a special moment.
Awesome. I think overall we this just goes back to like what we think or we want to happen in life, and sometimes it just completely detours, right? You wish that every parent wants their child to become the next Peyton Manning or the next like president of the United States or the next who knows, right? Famous actor and all these amazing things. They see it like, oh, I see the talent in you. I see the best in you. I know you are the best, right? And that's the point of parenting. But I think that it also parenting molds with parents as well. You guys have to be reminded like, oh, well, in some sort of way, like the path isn't what I would have painted but I'm not God. So I don't get to paint the path of my kids. I can only provide them with the tools to create their own. And so I think that's a great point on that, is we're always still growing kind of. And how we view life. Okay. Last piece of business that is very important. WNBA playoffs are in the second round that kicked off yesterday. Las Vegas Aces are playing in the Wings. They played both the first 2 games in Dallas. Of course, Las Vegas won the first game. That's really not a surprise right there. The interesting series is New York Liberty versus the Connecticut Sun. First 2 games are going to be at the Barclays. New York lost last night. Connecticut beat them. And I don't know if I thought it was going to happen, but then when I turned the TV on, we were watching the game, I was like, oh, okay. This is going to be trouble in Brooklyn for sure. Because the Connecticut Sun have one of those individuals on their team that's taking it extremely personal. And basically what we're seeing right now is the MVP matchup happen. Breonna Stewart versus Alyssa Thomas. Breonna Stewart's with New York Liberty. Alyssa Thomas with the Connecticut Sun. Alyssa Thomas took it on her to guard Breonna Stewart through the whole series. That was very evident from the beginning play. Somebody did not want that energy. And it was very clear. The MVP race. It was very evident. It was very evident, very clear who didn't want the smoke, who did not want those problems. Because the way that Alyssa Thomas was guarding, and like it was almost like out of pure anger and rage. And it was like, no, that's a dangerous place to be on the other side of that. I don't want that guarding me. Or I have to guard that? Are you kidding me? Like, no. So, and you can see it's personal. We are in a neck and neck MVP race. They're going to make the announcement tomorrow. It's between A'ja Wilson, who has been an MVP before, who has been a Defensive Player of the Year last year. She's the Defensive Player this year. Defensive Player of the Year award, it's this year. You have Breonna Stewart on one of the best teams in the league, right? Her first year with them. And then you have Alyssa Thomas, who's having a historical season. She's 6'2", leading the league in rebounds. She's leading the league in assists. And she's averaging a triple-double, basically. She's your MVP. But it's the conversation that goes back to, we talked about this, and now they're finally announcing it tomorrow, is what define the MVP based off of history and all of the leagues that we are looking at, the NFL, the NBA, the WNBA, the MLB, who is the most valuable player of the season? Does it have to do with who's the most valuable player on the team? That's the best team in the league? Or is it the most valuable player that made their team, who maybe shouldn't be where they are, a valuable team in the second round playoffs? And the Connecticut Sun beating the Liberty yesterday, in my opinion, if the Connecticut Sun win this series, in my opinion, regardless of who they give the MVP to, it should go to Alyssa Thomas.
Do you think that both are?
What'd you say?
Do you think already?
Yeah. And I have no faith that it'll go the right way.
Yeah. That's why.
No faith, none. WNBA has a history of picking specific people for specific opportunities of promotion. So my pick is Breonna Stewart. I think they're going to pick her. Another UConn athlete. No offense to UConn or anything, but it's just like, dang. I wish we would shift a little, throw off the vote a little bit, surprise people.
You may see really radical things happening in WNBA in terms of some of the decisions that are made, and it's been for the better. So hopefully we see this tomorrow when they announce the MVP.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
It doesn't get here. Definitely in competition for next year. You know,
this is the year. That's the thing, though. This is the thing. There's a specific group of athletes that always get to be MVP Defensive Player of the Year, right? And then sometimes they'll throw you for a loop. Like, oh, by the way, but the MVP has never once been, oh, shocker. No, it hasn't. It has not. It's going to be Brianna Stewart or it's going to be Asia Wilson. It should be Alyssa Thomas. And that's not because I'm biased. It's not because, like, no, in some sort of way, in my opinion, in a league that is still new, for her to average more triple doubles than any WNBA player of all time in a season. How about this? She has more triple doubles than any WNBA player right now combined in the league this season. Wow. So all I'm going to say is this. Those are individual stats, right? The biggest knock on her, I think, is because the Connecticut Sun isn't the number one team in the league. Obviously, Las Vegas is, right? Obviously, Liberty is right there with them because they've beat the Aces multiple times. But if Connecticut Sun beat the Liberty tomorrow night, in my opinion, they should hold off the MVP announcement until Wednesday. See what happens tomorrow, right? Because if the Connecticut Sun upset the Liberty tomorrow, it's over with for the Liberty. There is no WNBA Finals. They are going home with a 3-game series. It's Alyssa Thomas. It's Alyssa Thomas. Do you know how hard it is to get a triple-double? Do you know how hard it is to be the leading rebounder at 6'2" in a league like the WNBA? Do you know how tall those women are?
Yeah.
So that's my only thing. And once again, obviously I am biased, but it's just like, in my opinion, just throw us for a loop a little bit. Change it up. Give us something different, right? Like, give us a different face. Give us a different everything. Because if I have to see the same face again and again, every single year, we have the same defensive player do have this year. He says last year, 2-time. That's all I'm saying is just like surprise us.
Well, you think there's a lot of to get the MVP? You think the level of intensity on the game after they make the announcement? You think you
don't even know what she'll do to her. You're not understanding. The moment we turn the game on, Shane's next to me. He goes, "Oh no. Oh, she don't even want to go towards the basket. It's over." And I'm like, there was fear. Straight fear and uncomfort. It was one of those like, nope, this is personal. This is a thing between us. They're going to probably try to give it to you. I'm going to take it. Right. And I was like, we were watching it. And I don't know if you've been able to see a Liberty home game yet. They sell it out in the Barclays. Fans in there are going crazy. Like the environment right now. And Sabrina Nescu said this and she's right. New York fans have been missing a playoff run. They haven't had one in who knows how long. The Knicks, nah. The Nets, nah. So I'm kind of split on the fence, and this is the last thing I'll say. Definitely the Mets, the Giants, the Jets. Like, it's just, New York is like, come on, ladies. All I'm going to say is this, and we're going to wrap. I don't want New York to lose because I really do love the fan base, and it's awesome, and it's really good for the league. But I also want New York to lose because this game and this series and that game happening is good for the whole entire league. Like, there's good basketball happening in Brooklyn tomorrow and last night. Not so much in Vegas, to be honest with you. But this series right here is the series to watch. Next game is tomorrow night. 3 games. 3 games for the first two series. Final series and the finals is they go to a 5-game.
What sports league are that?
Vegas Aces, Dallas Wings, New York Liberty, Connecticut Sun. Yep. So, no, this is a great show. Again, thank you everyone for joining us here at Faith Family Focus. Of course, we use our faith as a vehicle to help heal and sustain others and strengthen their own family core. And of course, our slogan,
let go, let go, let go. Faith, let go, let go, let go.
Everyone have a wonderful week. We'll see you soon.